on a show that is the water cooler of conversation for the region. Judah Wickhauer, my friend, I see a lot of people watching the program. We can rock and roll when you are ready. I would encourage you to check YouTube and LinkedIn when you have an opportunity. But let's start when you're ready. Good Friday morning, guys. My name is Jerry Miller, and thank you kindly for joining us on Real Talk with Keith Smith. It's an absolute pleasure to connect with you guys on the I Love CVille Network, a show that airs wherever you get your social media or podcasting content. This network, guys, is booming with growth, and it booms with growth because of content that's local to Charlottesville, Albemarle, and Central Virginia at a time where legacy media, TV, radio, and print struggles to find its future. We understand the future is long-form content where nothing can be taken out of context. Judah Wickhauer behind the camera, the director and producer of the show. Keith Smith, the star of the program. Yes Realty Partners, the presenting partner. Yes Realty Partners, a firm you can trust. The founders in this game since 1987. We call that experience. Some folks may call that age.
Old would be a better choice of words.
It's perception, guys.
I've got both our youngest grandchildren spending a week with us. I can define that as old officially at this moment.
I know what it's like to have kids in the house, two of my own, and our guest today, Jeremy Rose, certainly does as well. Judah Wickhauer, if we can go to the studio camera, then a three-shot, and we'll welcome our star, Keith Smith, and our guest, Jeremy Rose.
Thank you.
God, I love him to death, but man, my hat's off to you. I've forgotten how hectic that can be and moving things around. But look, I just want to take a quick second. Jeremy, introduce yourself to the folks watching, who you are, what you do, and I want to take a dive into this important topic, just as Jerry said in his lead-in. Everybody's talking about tax assessments, but this seems to be flying underneath the radar and potentially has the risk of impacting our monthly payments more. But do an intro and then we'll kick off from there.
Absolutely, and you were talking about having the grandkids and how difficult it is. Imagine having the entire 2025 each week interrupted with school because of snow and everything. It's been it's tough for parents out there right now, especially working
Have the
households.
kids gone to school at all since Christmas?
It is like 2.5 days a week, it feels like.
Oh, geez.
It's been a little tough. But yes, I'm Jeremy Rowe. I have the Goosehead Insurance Agency, the Jeremy Rowe Agency with Goosehead Insurance. And we work in and around Charlottesville, Harrisonburg, most of Central Virginia. We are also licensed in other states too, West Virginia, North Carolina, Maryland, Pennsylvania, and DC. So we are a brokerage platform. I work with about 70 different carriers in personal lines. So I do life insurance, I do homeowners insurance, auto, RVs, motorcycle. I don't deal with health insurance. That's a whole different ballgame altogether. And most of the business that I see, or people that I work with, are people that are buying homes. So people that are getting ready to close. I partner closely with mortgage lenders in the area, as well as a lot of the realtor partners that we have here in Charlottesville. And our whole goal is to make the process of buying a home a smooth and easy one. And anyone that's getting a mortgage on a home has to have homeowners insurance. And as you mentioned earlier, there's a lot of elements that are in play. Tax assessments have gone up. It's been increasing. The interest rates are not they're not at 3% any longer. And what we've seen is not really a steady, but a pretty stark increase in insurance rates, both on the home side and then also on the auto insurance side across the United States over the last several years. So that's really what I want to peel back and get into today.
So I do need to ask a personal favor.
Sure.
if Yona calls you and starts increasing my life insurance policy, let me know. Okay.
When that's established, hopefully it's a fixed rate premium on your life insurance.
Okay, it was a poor joke. I tried to make a poor joke. It didn't work out so good. So let's go over this. PITI, right? We got principal, interest, taxes, and insurance. That is your monthly payment, right?
Yes.
So if you have a current mortgage right now, the first two are kind of fixed, right? Whenever you got your mortgage, it was fixed at your principal and your interest, your monthly payment. But the two things that are flexible.
Escrow can vary.
Well, that's what I was about ready to get into.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So the two that vary is your taxes and your insurance, which is your escrow, right?
Correct.
So we've been talking about taxes for a while, right? And you want to keep a close eye on that. So talk to us a little bit how the insurance portion of that can change pretty rapidly.
It can. So as far as homeowners insurance, it's the one that's the most variable. Tax assessments have been going one direction, which is actually not a bad thing. If the tax assessments were going down, we'd be in a different conversation altogether.
Okay.
But the taxes are going in one direction. The mortgage rates, if you have a variable rate mortgage, then that can fluctuate. But if you've got a conventional, if it's locked in, that's going to be pretty steady. As far as homeowners insurance goes, it's going to depend. Insurance is a reactionary industry. So, depending on what's going on in the world or what's going on with the various companies, the insurance industry reacts to those factors, and it can change premiums as a result. And what we've really seen over the last 5 years is a lot of factors, economic factors, that have played into the changing premiums for homeowners insurance and for auto insurance.
So on the way in, I told you this story on the way in. I got a phone call from a next door neighbor, and their insurance company, which will leave nameless, flew a drone over their home and said your roof is too old, and increased their monthly of the total bill by about 50%, right? Which translated for them close to roughly $100 a month is what the conversation I had. So are you starting to see that? And if you're seeing that, let's talk to folks about how we can kind of temper that down a little bit.
Sure.
And help them move forward.
So if it's all right, I want to give a little bit of a brief history of what's gone on in the world with homeowners insurance.
Sure.
Because it's been
Does this weave in disasters in Florida and California?
It does. Yeah. And I believe I may have touched on this a time or two in the past when I've been on the show. I've done a number of presentations for different realty groups, different home builders in the area. I work with I've spoken to the Women's Council of Realtors here in Charlottesville. And a lot of this goes back to 2020. So 2020, COVID hit. And when COVID hit, we were all at home. And with everyone under lockdown, it was actually a really, really good time for the insurance industry because people weren't driving, so they weren't getting in car accidents. And people, when they were at their home, a lot of times they took the opportunities to do some home projects, to do some fix-up things. And since they were present, they caught a lot of the issues that might have gone missing if they hadn't been at home that could have caused a homeowner's claim. So the insurance industry in 2020 actually did extremely well. It was very profitable, premiums coming in, fewer claims that were being paid out. And as a result, especially on the auto insurance side, a lot of companies ended up giving rebates, or in order to capture more market share, they actually lowered their rates because they're like, this
discounts.
is a great time for us. There was discounts.
Yeah.
So I think Geico was actually the very first one that started it, but as soon as they did, everyone else followed suit. I remember my insurance policy actually went down during COVID, and so everyone was trying to gain the market share because they were profitable. They were doing extremely well. In 2021, what ended up happening is all of us wanted to get back to living our normal lives, but institutions, government and otherwise, were a little bit slower. I remember, we went to the Eastern Shore, and looking out as we were driving over the Chesapeake Bay Bridge Tunnel, there was cargo ships just sitting out there that were waiting to dock. We couldn't get ships in from China for vehicles. We couldn't get new vehicles in.
Yeah.
Parts and materials, labor, everything else was kind of slowed up in 2021, but we started going back to living our normal lives. And the world kept turning. So there were still hurricanes, there were still wildfires in California, There was hailstorms and tornadoes going across the Midwest. And that really started having an impact on what was going on. Remember, I said insurance is a reactionary industry. So when everything was at home, they reacted and they said, let's lower premiums. In 2021, they started getting hit a lot harder. And that carried over into 2022. Again, we still had some of these things. We hadn't quite caught up in 2022. The world kept turning. And a lot of times, especially with claims activity, it's not always reported immediately when it happens. They run quarterly numbers, and it may be, in some instances, you have up to 2 years to file a claim based on an incident in order to get it to pay out. And what ended up happening, by the end of 2021, the insurance industry as a whole lost a net $3.8 billion, meaning after all the revenue they brought in from premiums and all the claims they paid out, insurance in the United States as a whole lost $3.9 billion. As that trend continued in 2022, that number went from 3.8 to $26.9 billion that the insurance industry lost. Now, I don't know about you guys, but if you're running a business, you can't be operating in the negative like that. You've got to do something to change it. So by the end of 2022, insurance companies said, hold on, we need to take a really strong look at what's going on. We weren't seeing, a lot of the progress, coming out of COVID. There was still, used cars were, increasing in value, which was amazing. You never saw that before. And it was still a lot of the challenges that they were going through. So they put a hard stop in the fourth quarter of 2022. And not only did they get hit with losses, but and many people may not know this, but there's reinsurance companies, which are companies that insure insurance companies. And they normally react a little bit quicker because they can see the writing on the wall. Reinsurance companies in 2022 increased their premiums on insurance companies by 60%.
Okay, so now they have to pass that on to the consumer.
They've got to pass it on to consumer.
Okay.
So after losing all this money, insurance companies reevaluated, and some insurance companies got out of the game altogether. Kemper Insurance is one of them that they ended up saying, you know what, we're just not going to do home and auto anymore. And
some companies chose to cherry pick certain states where they would not offer coverage based on headwinds historical that consumers faced in those states. Florida and California are specific ones.
Yeah, there was a lot of legal battles around that too, but yeah,
still are.
Carriers, yes. Carriers were looking to, they reevaluated their risk profile.
Right.
They said, we're losing a lot. Where are we losing it? Why are we losing it? They looked at coastal regions. They looked at places like California, Florida, Texas, big city centers. New York City has some of the highest claims. And so they reevaluated that. They reevaluated their risk profile. So you were mentioning the roof. So roof claims over the last 5 to 10 years make up roughly 40 to 45% of all homeowners' claims in the United States. So that is the number one claim that people end up filing for their home.
So let's stay on that for a minute,
Sure.
right? So we've been talking about how for folks to keep an eye on the tax side, on the budget and the rate, because that's going to ultimately impact the total dollar amount that they're paying, which impacts their monthly payment, right? But if I have, because we've got transactions that are going on, that if the roofs are 15 years or under, it's becoming a problem at the closing table.
It is.
So
If the roofs are 15 years or older.
Thank you
Yeah.
very much.
Mhm. Yeah.
Thank you. It becoming an issue at the closing table. So prior to listing, what recommendations could you give to folks who are going to list? Get somebody in to certify the roof. What recommendations?
So the roof is one of the more interesting ones, and there's a lot of conversations in the real estate world right now. A home inspection versus my presentation for 2025 is actually a home inspection versus an insurance inspection, because insurance companies come out and inspect properties too when you go to buy one. When it comes to the roof, a home inspector will come out and say, give an estimate on the age of the roof. They'll look for any issues with it. The insurance company draws a lot harder lines. So they'll look at a roof, and if it is a asphalt shingle roof, it doesn't matter if it's a 40-year architectural shingle, a 30-year architectural shingle, or a 3-tap composite shingle, an insurance company can say, if it is a asphalt shingle of any type, if it's older than 15 years, we're not going to insure it.
So I want to make sure the word "not" was used.
Yes, we are not going to insure that
And
home.
we also need to highlight asphalt shingled roofs are what percentage of roofs in this market?
99.9999999.
Very high.
So that's why I asked that question.
It's a little bit different if it is metal, and we do have a number of metal roofs that are around here, as long as they're well maintained.
Well maintained
slate-
means keeping the code on it? Is that what that means?
It is.
Painted
Yeah,
and
painted
stuff like
that.
and kept up. Slate roofs, there's still some homes with slate roofs, very few around here. We don't have a lot of flat roofs. The homes that I insure in Pennsylvania, that's a bigger question. There's a lot of flat roofs
Yeah,
up there,
sure.
especially in the Philadelphia area.
One of the challenges we had with insuring our building here, the Macklin building, a flat roof. You know, all about the flat roof challenge. You are dropping dimes right here. A lot of people have questions for you already. Keep going.
So yeah, they'll say, if it's older than 15 years, we're not going to insure it. The challenge, one of the biggest challenges with this, is that in the state of Virginia, we don't pull permits for roofs.
Yeah.
It could take too long to get the roof replaced
Yeah.
if you had to go through that process. So then the burden of proof comes on whoever's selling the home.
Correct.
Do they have receipts? Do you know who the person was that did the work on the roof?
So that is super important. That's one of
Very,
the first things when we
very,
sit down to do a listing. You had a new roof, great in 2023. I need to see a copy of the receipt.
Yes.
Right, so we can have it in our files when the buyer's agents ask. Go ahead, sir.
So, and it's, it can be a challenge too, because a lot of times people will invest in properties to flip as
Yeah.
well. And when they normally do that, they'll put in LVP flooring throughout the house. They'll put in a new kitchen. They put in granite countertops. My favorite people that flip homes are the ones that don't necessarily touch all that, but they replace the roof, they go through and they check all the plumbing, they update the electrical panel, they do the core guts of it because it's that's the long-term value that you're putting into a home.
And those are the things that when the insurance folks comes through that they're looking at.
Right.
Do I have Quest in it, so forth and so on.
Exactly. So the roof is a very big one right now. For listing agents out there, as much documentation as you can on that is an important thing. If you're a buyer's agent, asking for that information. Now, the insurance companies will still come out and they still do an inspection on the property to make sure it's in good condition. You were mentioning the drone flyover photos, and this is a lot of insurance companies are doing this now. Well, they will go over and do a visual of the roof. I think there's some legal battles that are going on out there right now as far as is this fair? In places like South Carolina, they did that and they sent non-renewals and saying, nope, we're not going to insure that roof.
Why would that not be fair?
I don't know. I'm not a
strikes
lawyer.
that strikes me as due diligence.
It is. I see it from the insurance standpoint.
Of why you would do drone footage on the item of the house that is most susceptible to payout from the insurance provider.
So
Yeah.
let me try asking the question a different way. In my insurance policy, which nobody reads,
Sure.
does the
I
insurance
read that.
God bless you. Does the insurance company have the right to do that?
They have the right to come out and do periodic inspections of the home to make sure it's okay.
So that
and a
answers
home
that
has to be well maintained.
But how they do
wanna
that
check
inspection is not defined,
It,
right?
It's not, and
Which is intentional.
And that's why a lot of the insurance companies are doing that. I think when it came to the legal battle, I think people
Felt intrusion of
was-
privacy?
It was used more as a we want to get out of this market, and it wasn't. It's a subjective. So that's the other thing is a lot of these underwriters are presenting a subjective opinion because it's very difficult, especially with roofs, to objectively define what is good and what is bad. Now, if half the shingles are missing, that's a pretty good case.
And he's pretty
But
much saying that
looking at-
because there's some roofs that if you have a 30-year warranty, legitimately could go 35 years. And there's other roofs, if they were installed poorly, that are on a 30-year warranty, may go 20, may go less if they're installed poorly. That's what he's saying.
And can I jump in and do a builder geek on
Please.
it? It depends on the pitch of the roof.
100%.
Yes.
Right? So the
And the trees, the foliage,
100%.
the precipitation catch.
the lower the pitch, the shorter the life, the higher the pitch, the longer, which is what the drones are looking at.
And you're saying trees like, if a roof is on a shaded north side of a house, it is going to show mildew and mold and everything else, moss.
Which eats it up.
And an insurance company could come out and say there's moss on that roof, it either needs to get cleaned or you need a new roof. And that can happen a lot faster than what you
So
anticipate.
I'm about ready to list my house, right? I know my roof isn't new.
Who are you using to list it?
And the reality is he's not going. His wife won't let him sell that house. Or actually, you don't want to sell the house.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you, Jeremy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you're welcome.
I'm now in trouble again. So what do I do, right? So I'm about ready to list a house. I've got a good agent on the other side that says, look, how old's your roof? My roof is 25 years old. It's a 30-year roof. I don't have the 15-year window that I need to have. Do I bring you out to look at this? Do I go ahead and get the roof certified, or I just bite the bullet and put a new roof on it so this doesn't show up at the back end?
So, I mean, there's several different ways to approach it. Now, probably 60% of the carriers out there right now say 15 years is our cutoff. There's several carriers that will go up to 20, and then there's some carriers that will go 25 or more. The greater the risk the insurance company is taking on for something like that, the higher your premium is going to be. So the carriers that are going to say, we don't care how old the roof is, you're going to pay for it in your insurance. So a lot of times, you know, it's a little bit up to you. But as far as what realtors do on the buyers or the seller side, as long as it's kind of known, it becomes a negotiation within the contract. Sometimes people will give credits, or it'll be negotiated in the sales price of the home. There are some listings that I've seen where the listing agent has said, we actually already have a contract to replace this roof,
Or
and it is a
quote.
Yeah, yeah. Well, no, I've actually seen where someone says, we already have a contract to get this roof replaced. And in some ways that kind of sweetens it up for
Well,
that
it's
listing.
projected into the price. It doesn't change the fact that it's negotiating.
But
down the road.
And the concern with doing
but when
that
you're listing
is-
your features, you're saying you're going to have not a new roof, you're going to have a brand new roof.
The concern with doing that is not every roof installer is A, and not every roof installer is B. And if I was buying a house, especially being in this community 25 years, I would want to use the roof installer that I know well.
And that's that makes a lot of sense. But thinking about the average first-time home buyer or something along those lines, a new roof, and I don't care if it's a 3-tab composite, if it's new is new. So it's going to be a good thing.
So that
either
adds
way.
value.
Yes.
Right? And we've got a couple other things to talk about. If you update your electrical panels, you update drop out the Quest.
And he's got a boatload
Sure.
of questions
Put in
on
there.
the feed.
It increases thing. But I do want to, well, we can get the questions. I do want to get to at some point what a past insurance claims impact. But we'll talk about that a little bit later.
Sure.
So viewers and listeners, put your questions in the feed. I'll relay them live on air. Some of the questions that are coming in so far, and you got agents that are giving you props right now. For instance, Sarah Hill Buchensky is saying
thank
you and is it Isaiah?
Isaiah.
Yep, are fantastic.
Thank you.
To work with. So she's highlighting that. Robert Sulky, watching the program right now, giving you some props. So a lot of questions that are coming in. This question right now from the mayor of McIntyre, we've dubbed him Bill McChesney, says, can he speak to the effect of solar panels on the roof? What effects do solar panels on the roof cause with insurance coverage? And then more questions continue to come in for Jeremy Rowe.
That's a good question.
So the biggest thing that solar panels currently affect is the estimated replacement cost of the home. The insurance companies that ask the questions about it, because not every insurance company asks about solar panels, but the ones that do, it's more if there's a claim on this house, we've got to factor in because we got to replace these things if something does happen. Solar panels are actually a pretty good protector of a roof.
I'm going to push back on that.
So as far as an asphalt shingle versus one of a solar panel, if you throw the same objects at it, a solar panel is going to take a beating in a good way. However, you do have to install it.
He's going to talk about the installation.
So,
yes,
the installation is the other thing. You're drilling into your roof. You're setting it up that way. And anytime you're doing that and compromising it, it opens up an opportunity for something to happen. Now, as far as claims activity I see, it's going to be on the smaller side. I have not had a lot of
That's good
issues with people
leaking
saying
and stuff like that.
leaking
Good
and
for you.
things along those lines. So that's
that's back to Jerry's comment about the who installs it, right, matters, and who you hire. And I'll give a shout out to Tiger Solar. They're working on a quote for my home, but what I did was put a brand new roof on it last year, waiting to save enough capital to put the solar on the back of the home. So my solar life and my roof life are now matched.
Our family short list of contractors that do work on our rental properties and our personal residence is 18 years of trial and error.
Yeah.
18 years of trial and error. So anybody that's doing any work for us is going to be handpicked by my wife and I. Joanne Mackey, tree fell on my roof. Luckily, I was in the market, used Lidged here in Charlottesville, and was very pleased. In my opinion, to have established roofer for follow-up, like if it begins to streak, they know how to maintain it. Know my roof, really important for curb appeal. This from Jason Howard on Rio Road for Jeremy specifically, and then we'll go to the Shenandoah Valley's finest backstop, Mike Plecker, who played baseball for the New York Mets in their minor league system. Jason Howard says, what is the group's opinion, specifically Jeremy, on getting a metal roof in this region versus replacing with shingles when building or replacing?
I'm a big fan of a metal roof. A well-maintained metal roof in this market is a great thing.
It's just going to cost you $90,000.
It's going to cost you multiple times over.
Yeah.
It is
5x probably a traditional roof.
Easy.
It is the more expensive option for it, but every situation's a little bit different. There's a reason why most roofs are asphalt shingle. It's less
cost
expensive.
effective.
Exactly, but the longevity of it is
well, and then
is there.
and then if you want to put solar on it, you sure as hell don't want to be drilling through
a metal roof.
And you can do the math
anyway,
too.
That's my builder hat.
If you're 30 years old and you're buying your forever home, which may or may not be, you're going to probably have to replace your roof 2 times in your lifetime if you were going to stay there.
Yeah.
So you might run the math and say, if I have to do it twice, why not go ahead and do it once?
Or it's like a family property that you're going to hand down to your children.
Exactly. In that case,
100%.
The metal roof can be a very good investment. So,
But
I always love seeing a good, well-maintained metal roof.
I mean, the metal roof is absolutely gorgeous, and there's few things more enjoyable than hearing the rain hit a metal roof while you're sleeping inside. I mean, it just will lull anyone to sleep.
And of course, I'm biased because whenever I'm doing the insurance policy, I want to see a metal roof. It makes my job a lot easier.
Of course.
So.
Questions continue to come in. I promised Michael Plecker we would get to him. I have maybe half a dozen questions already here for Jeremy Rowe, which is absolutely fantastic. This is a partner at YRP. Last year, there was a roofing company that was knocking on doors in my neighborhood offering free assessments. They would climb onto people's roofs and take a few pics if you had so much as a little spot. They would whip our pics from a hailstorm from 2 years prior, pushing people to make a roof claim. They said all the right things, had some stats, and promised to get the adjuster to back the claim. In my opinion, it was questionable operation. Many neighbors took advantage of it. I did not. Can you guys speak to this? Michael Plecker.
Absolutely. So right there is probably one of the reasons why all of us collectively are seeing our premiums go up. There's there's great roofing companies out there. There's great roofers out there, and I don't want kind of my next statement here to detract from that aspect of it. But there's certainly a number of organizations that
fly-by-nights.
If a hailstorm comes through an area, that they are out going door to door doing this and saying, oh, you can just submit it with your insurance company. And you had mentioned earlier what's the effect of filing a claim on your homeowner's premium, and we can get to that here in a second. But in many ways, it's not insurance fraud because something did happen to the roof. But at the same time, it's not.
Man, choosing his words carefully.
What they are doing is collectively hurting the roofing industry, the insurance industry, and by proxy, everyone else as a result.
So we've, for nearly 7 years, been using this term trusted advisor, right? Hire your trusted advisor, ISC. Is an example. Have somebody come in that you trust to go ahead and look at it. Don't put anybody on your roof that you don't know, you don't trust. And oh, by the way, if they fall off the roof, what happens to my insurance?
And just as a good rule of thumb, if someone is a door-to-door salesman or knocking on your door, be very susceptible of trusting these people. You see this in the tree business as well.
Yeah. Or driveway.
The asphalt driveway fixers. I mean, it's just. It's sketchy.
Trusted advisor, call your trusted advisor. Let me follow up with a question like that.
Sure.
So, you're my agent. I said, I'm really concerned about my roof. Would you mind coming out and look at it? A, is that a service you provide? Two, if you do, and you find a problem, what position does that put me in? Does that make sense?
Yeah, it's not something I really do. And again, the age of the roof, me personally, I'm not a whole lot, if I came and looked at your roof, I'm going to be giving a subjective opinion.
Well,
I'm
let me
not
put
a
it this
roofer.
way. You would be able to guide me in the right direction, right?
I can, but a lot of the things, if you said come out and take a look at my roof, I'm a little concerned, and there's like a hole and some shingles missing, then that's pretty clear and obvious. But really, a lot of the stuff, water always finds a way. So, and a lot of times it's unseen. So there's not a whole lot that I can do. Now I can take a look at it and say it's looking pretty old, but at the same time, there's insurance companies, as far as what they're doing, are looking at empirical proof. So my first question would be like, when did you last replace your roof? What's the age of it? Taking a look and seeing what kind of materials on the roof. Have you had any issues? Have you noticed anything? Have you been up in your attic or your the attic crawl or anything, and taking a look at it? But it's really. There's really, just as an agent, because again, I don't work for any of the insurance companies. I've got 70 different ones that I partner with, but I love being independent because, when I'm working with someone, I'm working with you.
I think you used the word bias before.
Huh?
I think you used the word bias before.
Yeah, I don't have any bias in it. Yeah, so I'm working for you as far as that goes. But there's not a whole lot I can say specifically as an agent. That's more of an underwriter's game.
I can testify to the water problem. It's in the basement. I'm building an apartment in the basement for my 85-year-old parents. Some knucklehead built a house, and I've got water intrusion, which I can't figure out how it's getting in. I've dug up. I mean, I've been working on it for a couple of months, so water will find its way.
Water always finds a way.
Monica Gibson watching the program. A lot of comments coming in the program. Keith, before we get off this topic, you have something on your mind, and then I'll get to easily 8 or 9 questions for Jeremy Rowe here.
Yeah, I just wanted to focus on this trusted advisor comment
Sure.
about coming in there, and then I don't know if this is a good time to get into past insurance claims, right, and how that impacts it. And as a buyer,
Sure.
I'm representing a buyer, right? Is it a good thing to pick up a phone and find out if I can get a report? And is there a process to go through on that?
Sure.
Does that make sense?
Yes. So what was the first? That was a lot of stuff you just threw.
Yeah,
out.
what was
Can
the
you go ahead and
question
repeat?
right
Yeah, what is the question?
Got it. So past insurance claims, right?
Okay.
I'm a buyer.
Sure.
I'm buying a house. How do I get a report on past insurance claims?
Sure. So,
Does that make sense? Is that better?
to touch into that, I want to go back just a little bit to where I was at the end of 2022.
Got it.
So the evaluations that insurance companies made, one of the first things that they did is they started looking at the price, and they started increasing premiums. If you're losing money, one of the first things you can do is start scheduling increases in premiums. The second
That
thing
means
they
charge
did,
customers more money, viewers and listeners.
exactly, yes. And the second thing they did was they looked at their underwriting guidelines for things like the roofs, and they might have insured a roof at 25 years previously. That went to 20, then to 15 for a lot of carriers. Some carriers out there, big carriers, are down to 10 years.
Who are some of those?
Right now, depending on the location, Progressive Insurance is one of the ones that if a roof's older than 10 years, they might not take it. Some insurance companies, actually, if you're like in the Tidewater area, it can be as little as 4 years that they're going to have. Every carrier has different rules, and it's not the same rules for every location in some instances. Now, the bigger the insurance company, the broader the brush they have to paint with. So a lot of your national carriers that run a lot of national ad campaigns, they may have more standardized rules and regulations as a result, and a little bit less flexibility. But they had changes to their underwriting guidelines, and then a lot of the carriers also took a look at, as I said, where they were taking the biggest losses. We were actually really lucky that we got price increases here. A lot of locations got non-renewals. The insurance company said, we're actually no longer going to write in your zip code any longer. At your renewal, you need to find new insurance. And then the last aspect was looking at claims history. And they look at it in two parts. A lot of insurance companies will look at it for the home and the home's claims history, and then also the
the
insured
individual people.
and the insured
Yeah.
and their claims history.
Yeah.
Looking at the insured's past history, even though it would be a different property if someone's buying a home, shows their propensity to file another claim in the future.
This is basically like an insurance credit score.
It is, and credit score is actually a big factor in terms of your price and premium.
I was
That's
just
another
about
factor.
literally
another one.
just wrote credit score
Yes.
down.
So it used to be.
That's a big thing.
It used to be depending on the nature of the claim. You could have 2 claims, and then maybe the third strike, you were out, and depending on the type of claim, if you had 3 claims, they might still be okay with it. A lot of insurance companies now have moved to a stance that if you've had a claim or the home has had a claim within a certain period of time, for some insurance companies it's 3 years, for some it's 5 years, some instances it's 7. But if you've had a claim in that period of time, they say, you know what, we're okay. We're just not going to insure you. You need to find another company. And that's if you've had a claim or the home's had a claim. Some insurance companies will just look at the house because that's the risk location. And see if there's been any claims history there. And then not all claims are treated equally. So we were discussing the roof earlier. If you have a roof claim, the end result of that is they replace your roof. So there may be an effect on your premium because you filed a claim for it, but there's also going to be the benefit of having a brand new roof that's on the home,
Sure.
which minimizes it. Something like a water claim that takes place on a property, a leaking pipe, or a sudden and accidental claim,
That's way worse.
those can be costly. Water is the number 2 claim after roofs, and those make up roughly 25% of claims. And when an insurance company comes out, they'll fix the damage as a result of the water claim, but they're not going to go through and replace all your plumbing. So the issue can still be present. If it was a home that had Quest or polybutylene piping, which was a type of plumbing that was very common throughout most of the 90s and 80s and 90s, they were known for getting kind of pinhole leaks or, sometimes at the.
So jump in real quick on this.
Sure.
So if you want to know if you have it, if it's gray plastic pipe, you've got it.
Gray
Yeah.
plastic plumbing. You
And
can
those
look it up.
elbow joints where the plumbing is connected, that's where the leak is going to spring.
That's most often the case. They have it there.
90% of the time, that's exactly when I look at them for homes, because I used to own a plumbing company. When I look at homes, if it's a copper fitting,
Copper elbow
fitting, then usually you're okay.
It's
That's
the
usually
plastic ones that are dog do.
It's the plastic ones that are a dog do would be kind.
Yeah.
And a lot of insurance companies, they don't like galvanized plumbing in homes,
Yeah.
and they don't like the Quest or polybutylene.
Yeah.
And what I see frequently is older homes built in like the 40s. There's like 4 types of plumbing that's in the house.
Yeah.
It's been renovated a few different times. One bathroom's got this, the kitchen's got that.
I'm dealing with one in Nelson County right now that
yeah.
literally goes from copper to galvanized to Quest
to PEX or
to
PVC.
PEX and PEX on it.
And with the insurance company, if there's any of one type of plumbing that they like that's in the home, it's a no-go.
So it's
an all or
called a
nothing.
CLUE, right? A comprehensive loss
CLUE report.
underwriting exchange.
Exactly. So a CLUE report is run with insurance companies for any property. And for actually your auto insurance as well, there's a CLUE report on any claims history. And generally for a property, it'll go back 7 years. And it'll show any claims activity that's happened with the home. Now,
That's like a Carfax for a house.
right.
Why can the consumer not have access to that information
Great question.
prior to purchasing a home? That information should be readily available for the average Joe and average Sally before buying a house, just like a Carfax is available for a car.
That's a great question. We'll need to ask the insurance industry as a whole or some power bigger than myself. But I normally look at it, and that's something
So
that
you're able to look at that?
I see it.
So let
I
me
see
add
it.
some context to that real quick.
Very interesting.
Because this is actually happening, right? Because in what I refer to the unicorn years, people were buying homes, not having home inspections, just closing on them. That's within that 7-year window. Some are reselling them, right? And all of a sudden buyers are showing up with a CLUE report. So, folks were not necessarily doing their due diligence as one should have, I think, in my opinion, back in those days, but it was the market and that's where it was at the time. So I own my home. I'm about ready to put it on. You're my agent. Can you give me a CLUE report for my house? Because it may have happened.
I'll take it a
before I
step
bought it.
further. I'll take it a step further.
Does that make sense?
Can average Joe and average Sally hire Jeremy Rowe
There you go.
and pay Jeremy Rowe some kind of fee for a comprehensive loss underwriting? Is it exchange?
Yeah, I can't do that.
Okay.
But
we
but,
can't
but if
pay
I'm
you
looking,
to get a report on some house we're looking at buying.
I wouldn't take payment for that. I would just, if I'm running a quote for a property, that doesn't cost anything for me to do that.
Okay. So
but
should people do that before buying a house?
Well, here's the thing. So
The answer to that is yes.
So yes, you have to. It will not let me move forward with a homeowner's insurance.
No, what
to have
Jerry's
the
talking
quote.
about before I make an offer on
Yes,
it. And
that's what I'm saying.
And thank you.
That's what I'm saying.
The caffeine's kicking in. That's the point I'm trying to get to.
So I would say not necessarily. So, and Keith, you know this. So if you walk into a home, if you're a buyer's agent and you walk into a home and say you see some water spots on the ceiling, unless it's been disclosed that there is an active issue in the home, it is assumed that the issue has been resolved because it had to have been disclosed by the seller or the seller's agent in order for that to happen, correct? The same things with insurance claims. So if there was an insurance claim on the home, it is illegal to profit from an insurance claim.
No,
So
I get that, Jeremy, but a lot of times with these sales that have just happened during, the unicorn years, they just bought it and never realized or went back and found out if there was actual insurance claim.
Or let's cut to the chase. Sellers just painting over the water spots right before they list the home and not telling anybody about it.
Well, again, it is the assumption that the issue was resolved. So there's nothing wrong with painting over that because if there was like a
100%.
small drip or something like that, and you fixed it, then it's considered resolved.
And I'm a unique animal because I can walk to a house and pick it apart, right? Because of my building and your building background and tell within minutes how old the roof is and so forth and so on.
Having the building background is extremely helpful in what I do.
And but so to Jerry's question, if I'm representing you to buy and we're looking at to buy Jerry's home, you're my current agent, right? And I want to buy Jerry's home before I put a contract. Can I ask you to run a clue on that house?
Before you finalize anything with if I'm doing a quote, the clue report is already going to come through. So it's going to say if there's any
Jeremy,
issues.
by the time I get to the point of getting
That's my
quote,
point, right
I'm
there.
already under contract.
That's my point.
My recommendation.
And there's no provision, unless, let me get this thought out if you don't mind. Unless I write a provision in the contract, which is very possible,
Some kind of out.
that there's an amendment to the contract that is just depending on my insurance costs. And the reason I wanted to talk about this, because this stuff is coming up at the closing table.
Sure.
And all of a sudden, they think they're spending X dollars a month, and now all of a sudden they're spending Y dollars.
I hedge risk in everything I do. Can I get the clue report before an offer is made?
Sure. So I can look at the insurance for a home before an offer is made. Yes. So if you're like, I'm looking at this property, I'm curious what the homeowner's insurance is going to be. I can run through that, and it does pull the clue report for that. My general recommendation for the agents that I work with or the mortgage lenders that are out there is as soon as a home is under contract, one of the first things you need to do is get in contact with the insurance agent. I don't care who the insurance agent is. I don't care if it's me or anyone else, but have an insurance company look at the home, someone that you trust, trusted advisor, to look over the property. There's kind of two different ways, and this is also part of one of my presentations, the chicken and the egg of the home inspection or the insurance inspection. One of the things that I generally do is when I'm looking at a home prior to a home inspection, I'll have questions that can be asked of the home inspector. There may be things that are found during the home inspection process that can come up, and it's also a period of negotiation.
So in contract flow, that's actually a smart place to put it, because the home inspection is a contingency.
Is a
contingency in the
contingency,
contract.
you didn't.
Yours is not. So if I'm doing that prior to that, then we can potentially address that during home inspection. I think
Sure.
that's a fair way of doing that. So we get it
Yeah.
on because the reality of it is inventory is slow. Deals are flipping and turning on a fast pace. You don't want to hold up a negotiation or a contract waiting for you to take a look at it. Get it on the contract. Ask you to come in to go ahead and do it prior to the home inspection. Now, keep in mind, these home inspections are getting tighter and tighter and tighter, right?
And some of them are for like informational purposes only. You normally are trying to contact.
Don't let me go down that
And
road.
not inspectors are equal.
Don't let me go down that road.
The other thing, Jerry, and I think this is probably a different way of answering your question is because you were concerned about pre-contract looking at these things and making sure that this is going to be something that's going to fly. There is an addendum to the home purchase contract that is an insurance addendum. I don't think it's used enough.
I don't think it's used at all. 'Cause I didn't know about it.
That's a better way of phrasing it. But the
And I'm going to look it up while you're talking.
but basically what you're able to do with that is saying, this home is contingent on us finding home insurance at X amount of dollars per year, with this deductible. And it's basically it's a type of financing contingency that you can add to the contract.
My buddy Jerry will jump in on this one.
Yeah.
So read my mind. What am I thinking right now?
That what you're thinking is that impacts your negotiating position.
I would say no seller in their right mind would accept a contract with that insurance addendum unless their home is extremely long in the tooth.
Yeah.
Well, one of the things you can do is look at your current homeowner's insurance and see if you think it's reasonable.
Yeah.
Now, that's not always the best indicator of it.
Because it's based on the people's insurance history. It's based on their credit score. It's based on so many things.
Well, I just read
can
this.
be.
They use terms like at your sole discretion. From a listing agent's perspective, and I'm multiple bids, and let's face it, that's kind of back to that norm at the right location, right price, right features, right condition, right dose is what's going on.
Well,
but your approach is a better approach.
Right. We're having two different conversations now. You're talking about the competitiveness of an offer, and you're talking about I need an out.
Yeah.
So they're two different things. Now, I'm saying you're
doing a great job here, by the way. This is going back and forth. I know. Back and forth. I know.
You're stuck in the middle of
it's
Jeremy Rowe.
Batman and Robin.
Not an out, but not getting yourself in a position where you're going to be stuck with something because of a higher insurance premium or claims history or something along those lines.
I would just rather the clue report before I make an offer.
Yeah, I mean, you can certainly get a quote. Now, if you're looking at 30 different homes, I'm probably going to get a little frustrated with you.
Well, you should charge for that. No. Why can't you make that as a profit center?
No, that's it's just not how I'm set up. But that's part of the thing that I do is I will call and gladly give a quote for a property or put eyes on it or run through everything. So, but no, it does show that, and it will. Yeah.
But in real world. The current tempo is one in most cases, unless it's extremely long in the tooth and the seller is extremely desperate. Language that's buried into it. I've never actually read this, so thank you for doing that.
Would never be agreed upon by the seller.
Yeah, and that's probably why it's not used.
And it has. It has been agreed upon. But it's still, and a lot of times too, that part of the contract can be satisfied fairly quickly.
85 transactions I had my eyes on last year. I did not see a single one of these.
Yeah, well, but it is one.
But your approach is right, though. Get it on the contract, negotiate to get it on the contract.
Yeah. And that's what I'm saying. It's a very different conversation on getting
it is,
a competitive market versus.
It isn't. Yeah. Because the way the home inspection addendum is written, you can bring in professionals, right? You're just another professional to come in and go ahead.
The insurance addendum, I can guarantee you there's a boatload of agents that are watching this program, and I guarantee you that those agents had no idea about the insurance addendum.
Or they did very rarely ever use it.
Right. Which is the value of Real Talk with Keith Smith, because we're covering content that should be in your toolbox. And Jeremy Rowe is providing tremendous value here for the viewers and listeners.
And he's playing tennis really well.
I think you actually enjoyed this, don't you?
Oh, yeah. This is great. I love it.
There's a boatload of comments that are coming in here. So this one right here is from Eric Thompson. And Eric Thompson, I appreciate him because he is always the cynic. And I appreciate someone who's always a cynic. So this is the timeline of events that you gave in the beginning of the show. And I'm going to put it in very succinct terms.
Sure.
Government tells America during pandemic and COVID to quarantine and stay at home. We stay at home more. We find problems with our house. We fix problems with our house. We don't leave our house, get in our cars and drive as much, and government gives us extra money to spend. So we can use some of that extra money to fix house. In that situation, insurance providers start offering discounts to the public because they are in a more competitive scenario. There's less claims coming in. They have more cash on hand. Then what happens, we come out of quarantine. The world goes bananas, crazy because of low mortgage rates. People start buying houses sight unseen or without doing true due diligence. A lot of people are buying garbage. My words, not yours.
I was going to say,
Keith's words.
taking a few liberties, but that's okay.
A lot of
I'm
people are
following you,
buying
Jerry.
homes that were not inspected or not set up the right way. Insurance claims start coming in. And as insurance claims start coming in, natural disasters strike Florida, natural disasters strike California, natural disasters strike the Southeast and the Mid-Atlantic. Insurance companies start losing in a 2-year period of time $30 billion plus dollars.
Yeah.
Now insurance providers are desperate and they're trying to recoup 30 billion plus losses. They're saying no to coverage in certain states like California and Florida specifically. They're starting to narrow down the coverage that they'll offer. For instance, a roof that may have a 30-year shelf life may only be covered under 15 years of shelf life.
Yep.
Right? Okay. And now folks are like, what the hell is going on here? Homes are expensive. Interest rates are expensive. Taxes are expensive. Insurance is going up. Everything's going up.
Sure.
So that's where we're at right now. So Eric Thompson says, when can we expect insurance companies to recoup their costs and reduce their prices? Or is this higher pricing the new standard forever?
Awesome. That's the very next part of the story. Excellent question. So by the end of 2023, in the fourth quarter of 2023, there was really only 4 companies that were, profitable, like across like their home and their auto lines in the United States. And I think there's like 470 different insurance companies in the United States for personal lines products everywhere. We don't have them all here in Virginia. But
what were those 4? Out of curiosity.
I will have to go back and pull them. Progressive was one of them. Progressive's kind of the they do a lot of leading within the industry in terms of making the changes. They're some of the first ones that made changes, and they're some of the first ones that came out of it. So what we saw over 2023 and end of 2022, all through 2023, and the majority of 2024 was different price increases in premiums to kind of find that level that insurance companies needed to be, where they got their loss ratios down, and that they were starting to look more profitable. As they started to do that, as they found their kind of happy medium, which was in the second half really of 2024, we saw fewer scheduled price increases. They didn't they boiled the water slowly so the frog didn't jump out. However, that's when they're writing new business. What we saw is that there might have been 10 scheduled small price increases over the course of a year, but we only get our renewal once a year. And you look down and your home that was insured for $900 is now $1,400. And you're like, why did it just go up 50%? And that's because there was a lot of smaller increases over time. Also with that comes an increase in coverage generally. But to stay on kind of what's happening now, 2024, we hit kind of a stabilization period. We've made a lot of changes. Let's sit with it and see how it's feeling. So the second half of 2024 and into 2025, that's really what we've seen is we've made a lot of changes. We're going to see how it feels. And then what's happened is some carriers by the end of 2024 said, okay, our profits are looking better. These underwriting changes that we've made are working for us. We're minimizing our risk a little bit more. Now we need to get back into growth mode. And in the society that we live in, when you have multiple companies and whatnot vying for business,
price cuts, discounts,
you start saying, okay, these are areas that we want to grow. What is our opportunity for premium here? How can we grow in these areas? We're very fortunate where we live. The Shenandoah Valley, Central Virginia, is an area that carriers want to come to. I've added 3 new carriers so far just in 2025. And I've got more that are scheduled to come in. So companies, some of the smartest and nimblest companies out there, the large national companies are very good insurance companies. They're better marketing companies, but they're very good insurance companies. But there's a lot of A-rated, and A is the financial rating of the companies, A-rated carriers that are regional or local that are still very good. And sometimes they offer even better levels of detailed coverage on a policy. But they can be more strategic. There's some insurance companies that they won't appoint agents. They'll go to Richmond and then they'll appoint them west, but they won't appoint agents in the Tidewater area because they want to grow in this area because it's a lower risk. So what we're going to see throughout 2025 and in 2026, barring some major catastrophes or everything, I think we'll sit with what we have, and then you'll start to see companies say, all right, we want to get more competitive. This is where we want to grow our business. I talk with a lot of builders in the area. Buying new construction is the least expensive insurance that you're going to get.
Sure.
And some companies...
Which that makes sense.
Yeah.
Some companies are very smart, and their premiums are going to be even better than what most of them are, because they're like, we want to capture new home construction. We want to be the best premium in the market when it comes to new home
Because the
construction.
likelihood of claims being filed is much less on new construction
It
because
is
it's brand new
greatly
property.
reduced.
Plus,
Yeah.
plus it has warranties that come baked in
Yeah.
with it.
Age-related claims on homes start happening around the 20-year mark for homes.
Yeah.
When a home hits about 20
Yeah.
years, that's when age-related claims start hitting. And what you'll see is a premium difference between a home built today and a home 10 years ago is going to be about a 50%. It's going to be 50% higher, a 10-year-old home versus a brand new construction home, and that goes up to 75% when you hit 30 years.
So while you guys were talking, I was crunching some numbers. So in Paragon, you can put in there roof type and segregate out the sales on roof type. Now, before I give this number, this is assuming the listing agent put in the listing
The correct way.
or actually even added the fact that it has a metal roof. So there in the last...
God, if there's a listing agent that does not quantify the value of a metal roof in their listing or on the back end with Paragon, then they should not be the listing agent on your house.
Well, I'm just saying this is,
Facts.
I'm just saying that if they don't put a metal roof in the listing, number I'm about ready to give you wouldn't catch, right? It could have one, wouldn't catch it.
Sure.
There was a little over 3,000 transactions, closed transactions, going from today, 12 months back. 30 of them said they had a metal roof on it.
We're talking 1%.
Yeah.
Think about that. 1%. I mean, that just
Now,
speaks to the cost of the
Yeah,
metal roof.
I would imagine if you go into each individual 3,000 transactions, you'll probably find some of them might have it. So it might be a 0.5% or percent different, but it's not a huge percentage of the total transaction.
Go ahead.
I was going to say, just to kind of tie up the last question. So I think what we're going to see in 2025 is a stabilization. I don't think you'll see on renewals, after your renewal this year, I don't think you'll see the same kind of stark jump in premium rates at renewals going forward. There might still be some variance.
So when you say this year, you mean 2025?
So anyone that's getting their renewals right now for their homeowners insurance is probably going to see an increase compared to what it was in 2024. We were still through the evaluation of the premium period right now. If your renewal is going to be coming up in the latter half of 2024, it might not be as stark a difference.
So
There
this
might still be some.
sounds like it's going to play out almost like gas and groceries, where prices may stabilize, but they're not going to go down to what they were pre-COVID.
Well, that's the other thing. So, I don't see big milk like trying to vie and compete for market share, trying to get the milk prices to come down. But insurance companies are a little bit different.
I certainly see gas in that field.
Sure. So I think there is an opportunity, depending on how things go, for again insurance companies to be strategic in where they want their growth areas to be and what they want their criteria to be. And being in an area of the United States that has more favorable conditions than other places, adding competition to our market can be something that can help bring prices down. The other thing that you can do is, with a lot of insurance, for many people, it's set it and forget it. My personal opinion is that every 3 years is about the right length of time to reevaluate your insurance. I wouldn't do it every year. I wouldn't do it every 6 months. But 3 years is generally the best. The reason why I say that is, especially with auto insurance, a lot of times when people are getting quotes for auto insurance, the carriers that I'm brokering for are going to look at how long they've been insured and how long they've been insured with one carrier. If you've been with them for 3 years or more, the new insurance companies are going to say, that's a very loyal customer. We want them to be with us for 3 years or more. So they'll offer more favorable rates as a result.
We're getting close to wrap up.
Oh, we're at wrap. Yeah,
So-
we're at over an hour.
Thank
here.
you, everyone, for having me
Yeah,
on.
he's killing it.
But the premise of what I wanted to do for the show today is the taxes and insurance portion of their monthly payment. There's a very good chance your taxes are going to go up. The amount of cash you're going to pay is going to go up. And if you have not renewed yet, there's a strong possibility that should go up. So what folks should be doing is reach out to you or reach out to their current agent and get an assessment on the roof or assessment on their property?
Well, very,
and see
very
what-
directly, Jeremy, should homeowners, through their online mortgage payment platform, be allocating additional funds to escrow? To cover.
Not until the mortgage company asks you for it. They'll let you know if there's a shortage in your
because
escrow.
you can do that.
You can put more into the escrow if they want, but the mortgage company will let you know if you've
Yeah,
got a shortage.
they'll let you
in
know.
there.
You'll get a notice.
And some of them will.
Because I have a feeling
We'll
all the viewers
adjust
and
exactly
listeners
where
that
they
are
take
watching
it.
this program are going to be in a position where they're going to have to put more money into escrow with tax assessments going up and with insurance about to hit.
Well, they'll either need to put more in, or depending on when it hits too, what they'll do is they'll just adjust what your mortgage payment is, and
That's
then they'll
exactly
refill the
right.
escrow account that way. So they don't necessarily have to put the funds in, but you're going to see the adjustment in your mortgage.
That's what's going to happen.
Yeah.
Right. All of a sudden, you're going to be paying $1, and now because of taxes and insurance, potentially you can be paying $1 plus. And just keep an eye on your mortgage payment. So,
Yeah.
so Jeremy, thank you for coming in. Anything you want to wrap up before we?
Yeah, I just
You did a great job.
Thank you. I appreciate that. So I'm with the Jeremy Rowe Agency with Goosehead Insurance. You can email Rowe, ROWE, agency at goosehead.com. Our phone number is 434-266-9900 is our main office. I have a team of 5 now, including myself. Monica Gibson and Mike Pearl are both here in the Charlottesville area. And then also Isaiah Bradshaw in Harrisonburg. All 3 absolutely wonderful people to work with. I really love the team that we've built out. And then I also have my office administrator, Sharon. It's been fun. I've really enjoyed.
You're welcome back
growing the
anytime,
business. And thank you all for having me on.
Tom Woodworth, Jeremy Rowe is an absolute legend inside of Insurance and Out. He's giving you some props right now. Viewers
Thank
and
you, Tom.
listeners, Jeremy Rowe crushed this interview with, at one time, the ping pong nature of Batman and Robin, literally funneling questions to him left and right, and the dude did not sweat or flinch in any regard. Just handled it with grace and insight. Seriously,
Look at that,
dude.
smiling.
Thank
Good
You
for buddy.
legitimately just effing crushed this dude. Keith Smith, Real Talk with Keith Smith, online at realtalkwithkeithsmith.com. Click the Partners tab, and you will
Please.
see the trusted advisors that Keith has personally vetted to help you get to the closing table and beyond. realtalkwithkeithsmith.com. Click the Partners tab. The I Love CVille show is up, in a short time here on a Friday with a hell of a lot to cover. Judah Wickhauer behind the camera. Thank you kindly, everyone, for joining us on the show today. So long.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Absolutely awesome, Jeremy.
Oh, thank you. It was great.